I heard it was kind of unbearable.
Nights are hot.
Careful what you say. Don't talk too bad about the mayor. It's all being recorded. Hey, Abner must be making too much money over at Proximo. He just bought a new truck. Hey, when we get to take a ride in that new truck?
It ain't out here yet.
Where's it at?
It's still over.
Stop by, I left you.
Yeah, so I wondered who drew the picture.
About the check. I ain't got the check yet.
Well, they might let you take it.
Well, they would. He told me, you didn't take it, I ain't taking it. See, there's a dividend check coming out of that stock.
Yeah.
Thursday.
Oh.
So I want the dividend check off of it before I take that money off that. So
Gotcha.
it's a money-making deal here. Hey, your brother's over there.
There we go.
I wasn't going to do that, but after pulling that the other day, I'm afraid I'm going to tear this other truck up.
Really? It's not big enough? What'd you buy, a 250?
Diesel. It's just a diesel.
Are you kidding? How big is this thing you're pulling?
Oh. It's about 30 feet long.
Mayor, are you recording?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I
It's-
just
it's
turned
a-
it on.
It's a big one.
Yeah, we're hot.
Okay.
It's a big one,
Just
man.
making sure, because I may miss some
Got mine
stuff.
for me?
I don't have one thing for you. Again.
Never get paid.
Kelly,
So
I just to let you
disappointed.
know, it's black. Just so you know,
Is it really?
It's a super cab. It's not a cab. It's not a. It's a cab and a half instead of.
Oh, it's not the 4-door.
No.
That'd be a big truck.
Well,
Makes you feel any better. I don't have anything for
reason
size
I did
either.
that, I could have went and got those.
Oh yeah, right? Where are you?
Too, I really looked at it, but Scott's leaving. I ain't gonna be riding with us. The only thing we're gonna be doing is putting groceries in the back seat. So
Yeah.
I want something short enough to.
You can put that in the back of the truck?
Yeah, short enough to drag things. When I hook this other truck to it, it's like a country mile. I'm not a.
Did you get an ELT? Or
No,
XLT, I mean?
XLT, yeah, XLT, yeah.
They're nice.
It's got all the mirrors on, I
Is
roll
it
it.
vinyl or did you get cloth?
It's got cloth, but it's got all the, you ever seen all these cameras they got?
What's up? Oh,
You got a camera, it's got this camera, it's got a camera in front, camera on each mirror,
We got all kinds
two
of
cameras in the
stuff.
back, camera up with a, it's set up for a fifth wheel.
Lay out a nice view over
But
there,
it could be
rabbit
used.
Yeah.
So nice.
Look like
We'll figure it out Friday.
I just out there all day.
And pushy salesman, you know. I seen some relation of yours was running around over there. Your brother was in and out of the back room.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the only two I really know, him and Caldwell. I don't know anybody else over there.
Jimmy Fuchs.
I know him, but, you know, I've never dealt with him.
Yeah.
this looks good. I had one thing that I wanted to ask them about, but.
Hello, Mr. Seymour.
Mike's are on. Look at it.
Hello, Mr. Seymour.
How are you? How you doing?
How's the utility director? He finally come back to see us?
Yep.
I thought we was gonna have to have him on one of them there,
Skype?
there you go. Whatever the heck it's called.
Yeah.
You brought the good weather back with you or what?
I hope
Or what I'm gonna get it approved tonight.
Heard a little warm one was gonna.
It was bad.
Is that a family vacation?
It was, yeah.
Oh, nice. Where'd y'all go?
Went to Bear Lake, Idaho.
Uh-huh.
Then from there went down
Wait,
to
is,
Mexico, so I left.
Tony gonna be
Oh,
here?
did you?
Anybody know?
And then home.
It's hard to tell.
Tony called me
How long it takes to
this
get
morning
home?
and he talked to me
24
twice
hours.
yesterday about it, so he knows about it.
Cause that's the only
He
guy,
was planning on.
Mel won't be here, Aaron's not gonna be here. You want attendance there?
Yeah.
Hey, the mics are hot. You're sitting there
Yeah,
cussing. The mics are hot, Olin. He's cussing on there.
Don't matter.
He's cussing.
Ain't saying nothing. that I
Shame,
would say.
shame, shame.
But I was cutting grass over there with Tony yesterday and he talked to me about it.
truck?
Yeah, about new truck. It ain't here
I feel like
yet.
you're hoping to get a new truck. Didn't you get one last year?
Oh, it's up here, boy. No, that's right. I got one in the 15. Actually, but, yeah, your right hand, was that your brother-in-law?
Who's that?
Well, I mean, I was.
Well,
Skylar?
he don't work here no more.
Skylar,
I
yep.
think they would have
He's my lady.
Did he say anything else about it?
I
in dark suits.
got this camera, this matching on, and ain't doing what I wanted to do with it. I'm scared of it. I'm about to have a truck.
I
Oh, good. Good deal. Always exciting getting a new car.
So she swore up and down. No more. She said, and I said, no more, Kelly.
Oh, I bet she knows better to say that to you.
She said, no more, ain't she?
She's not gonna say that.
She did.
Just brought a brand new camper.
Yeah.
That's why I said he's getting something
His
new.
boy's got a brand new truck,
No, it's just fairly new. Yes.
I want a camper.
brand new Jeep. That's just for Saturday afternoon
Just for
ride.
fun. Just for
He's got a vehicle for every day of the week.
Let me tell you something, my mom she treated me well, my mom did.
Took care of you.
Yeah, she did.
Good for her.
She
Good
took
for
care.
you. Good for
I
you.
still buy my toys and still have money in the bank.
There you go.
Good for you.
That's the way to do it.
You need to stop down and look at that camper sometime.
I will stop over. I'd like to see it.
Nice.
Pretty nice.
First one we looked at.
Where'd you get it at?
Up at
Raper?
Coleraine.
Oh,
Got up there, Rapers ain't business no more. Got up there and he's got these two, there's like theater seats where the couch would be, and they're wall huggers and they're reclined. I sat down in this gun. I said, well, this is the one I like. And it's got the whole back, it was the bathroom. It's got a bathroom bigger than our bathroom in our house.
Wow.
So where you go, it's right here. Kitchen's right here. It's got a 32-inch TV set right in front of it.
How much was that?
Huh?
How much was that?
32-inch TV?
23 what we got in that.
23,000?
Yeah.
That's all?
That's it, yeah.
You get a pole behind?
It's a pole behind.
Oh,
It's 29.8 feet long. And it's made by, what the hell is
Tioga?
it? No, it's Reflection. There's a company they make Reflection.
Jacob.
No, it's made up here in Indiana. They got damn
Fort
name.
Wayne or something? That area? Elkhart?
Up in Elkhart, where it's called that. But it's heavy. The other one was 3,000 some odd pounds. This is
Did you have one
6,000.
before this?
Yeah,
Oh, you did?
I traded that one in.
I didn't know you had one
I got it,
before
yeah.
this. Okay.
I did a trade-in on that. They gave me pretty decent money on trade-in.
So where did you go, Coleraine?
Coleraine, yeah. That's where I first learned how to pull a trailer home from Coleraine. That's scary. I never pulled a trailer home in my life before, and here I'm bringing a trailer down 275.
Break it in real quick.
Trial by fire.
It did. Now this recliner, this is the one, we looked at a whole bunch, weeks went by, and found this one. There was a used one we looked at, it was up there, it was a year old. This was an 18, and they wanted.
This was an 18?
This is an 18, yeah. There's $1,500 difference between the used one and this one. I told her, I said, we're gonna go $1,500
Nice to
more.
meet you,
about the
Suzanne.
new one.
Wow.
It's got a warranty stuff on it. And then we got back and I said, sure, I found
Oh,
out we got a
awesome.
massage and the heat in this damn recliner. I thought, well, there
You
you
know
go.
how to-
It's already done. We're gonna do this one.
That's all self-contained, probably. I mean, air conditioning and all that.
Yeah, you just get your power flip. And now you end up down
Debunking
there.
the
We went
myths.
down there to mess with it. Who to pull up next to? Eric Schneebel.
Are you kidding me?
Eric's got his down there too. Yeah.
Where'd you go?
Oh, down at Follow the River down at.
Oh, is that where you went?
That's where we went down there. Yeah. Dinner Perfect's got that place down there. Yeah, we set up down there and messed around.
Okay.
That was my good practice, just to figure out if everything worked.
Good. Good.
We could have grilled out Friday or Saturday afternoon.
Where'd you take it?
Hello, Cindy.
Follow the river, went down and played with it a little bit.
How's Cindy?
Grilled out that lunch for Friday, and I went back, and hell, it's
How's Celie?
almost 4 o'clock by the time I woke up.
I had
at whatever it was.
771 and sold
We need
I wasn't gonna get this one. I wanted something a lot smaller.
Tony needs
Kids
to talk to
leaving.
Tony Eccles needs to talk to you.
We got the plan that kids leaving, we gotta have something to do on the way.
No, he's got plenty of
Take
people to
off.
talk to.
He wouldn't know if they're gonna be here, he needs to talk.
A lot of places to go.
And then we ended up talking about the truck thing, then the stock.
Well, that's the reason I just bought another truck.
Nice.
Oh, you did? Of course, he can tell that.
my stuff. They're buying my stuff
Oh,
back.
same, this one.
So I got no money to play with.
We don't usually have these.
Told her, I said, unless they give me the right amount of money, I would have.
Unless you wanna look at it and see if there's.
Told her I went to Ruby Lake.
That's fine, just don't write on that thing.
Talking about, you already been back for roll call. Hey, we need you back for roll call.
Truckman's and Osgood looked at all the damn trucks. They had one out over here that was
Yeah, but they said over there.
fit.
Oh, they made one coffee.
They gave me.
Keep you awake at night.
I know, right? Last thing I need.
Well, they was about 2 years old.
It's a nice truck. There's really nothing wrong with it.
Where's
It's
Abbott?
just,
We
I
need a
just,
third, we need a quorum.
you hear it popping and cracking and shit when you're pulling on it. This has got the 6.7 diesel.
Mic check, 1, 2, 1, 2.
It's not a four-door, but it's a cab and a half.
Check, check. Mic check.
Nice
Oh, yeah, it's
bracelet.
black. It sings.
Thank you.
Pretty decent. Well, I wasn't gonna go with the diesel, and she said, Randy, she said, they're very good. I said, I got the one I
You
wanted
take his
now. It's
place?
sitting at the house, but it just won't do what I wanted to do.
All right, thanks, guys.
Then I got Kelsey, and they wanted $60,000 for.
Well, talk's Tuesday.
I could have bought a gas, but I didn't get gas.
There ain't no such thing as a bunker about it.
No,
Good.
got that, got up to 100,000 miles warning on the motor and shit too, to make sure it got all that coverage.
They ain't a bad.
They was trying to shove me out the door with it tonight, and I said,
You got Abbott's phone number, Paul? Oh, yeah, we got it.
If you haven't
Can
already.
you call him and see if he's coming?
If you haven't already, you need to take
We need a third.
West. Go hit up Yellowstone.
this thing ain't got no miles on this one.
Mel's in Columbus on Tuesdays.
I think he's on vacation.
Aaron is in Vegas.
I think he's in Las Vegas. I think I seen that on their turtle. You know, you think that the money is slow with people not buying things and stuff like that. You go on a Saturday, you go up and sit in the parking lot of Coleraine RV and watch all the people trucking out the door.
Really? They're making some money up there.
5 seconds.
Killing it. They've got.
Five other shops in Annapolis.
Oh, really? So they're all over there.
So if you don't get to the find one over here, they'll find one and turn at another dealer.
That's what's up.
We started out right after the boat
Busy
race.
today, Paul?
Boat race.
You guys busy today over there?
Yeah,
How's the audit going?
75.
they're gone, but they're probably
What's the
doing all
vac,
they're thinking, man.
what's the vac truck doing over in the adult center parking lot with the hose stuck down?
Oh, they're getting 100%.
Cleaning between the adult center and.
They asked for
I was gonna say, that
another
couldn't have
audit
been
from
ours,
some other
we got a
company.
nice shiny one, and it wasn't
No, they
shiny
had to hire
from
to
the
get
street,
that
from
done.
where I was standing, it wasn't shiny enough for ours.
That group works for us too. They're a pretty good group of guys. They get down in there and do the dirty work, they don't mind.
Is that the one that comes out of the,
We'll look and see.
pond up to the pump house?
Yeah. And that's what they're investigating, and looking at.
Mario walked in that years ago. Mario walked into the
Alan Aaron won't be here.
They're taking some of the stuff out of it now. Greg's been watching. You made it. I was in Dillsboro. Making another service call in for it.
All right, let's get this thing going. Let's get it rocking. All right, welcome everybody. We'll call the Lawrenceburg City Council work session for July 25th, 2017 to order. Can I get a roll call, please?
Member Tony Abbott.
Here.
Member Aaron Cook. Member Mel Davis. Member Randy Abner. Member Paul Seymour Jr.
Here.
City Attorney Dell Weldon.
Here.
Utility Director Olin Clausen.
Present.
Mayor Kelly Malone. Here. And myself.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to say, Mr. Cook is in Las Vegas. His plane should be landing about right now.
oh, is it? Okay. Is he coming here, do you know? or-
I doubt that.
Okay, okay. Especially if he won a lot of money, you probably not, right? Okay. A couple of items on the agenda tonight, and then I got some other items we need to make some decisions on that are not agenda items. But the first one I'd like to bring up is, with the Civic Park, Strand and Associates and that group was decided as the engineer of record. What they've been working on, we've been working on is their fee schedule for the scope of work. And what you have before you is that, and what we'd like to do is get an approval for that tonight. Just so you know, they have already started work, both on the infrastructure side of it, or the surveying and some utility work, as well as design, is what we've been told. If it'd be okay, I'd like to get a motion to approve this so they can continue, and then what will happen is after they get to the schematic piece of the design, or schematic design piece of the project, there will be, we will do amendments to finish the project out. And that was agreeable to you all as well, right? Okay. And so we can have, that will all be open for discussion as we go forward with council. So anyway, I'd like to get a motion to approve the scope of the services agreement that we have in front of us.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion will carry. You need me to sign a copy and then...
I've got two originals here.
Okay.
I'll wait till after.
Okay, all right, we'll sign them afterwards. Thank you. Thanks, guys. All right, the next, let me just bring up, before we get into our work session piece of it, there's some things I want to make you guys aware of going on. The courtyard out here, to the side of the building out here, we're working on, we'd like to open that up so people can come in and use that, because the way it is right now, it's not usable for people. So we're thinking about removing a section out here on Walnut Street, doing some concrete work for the walkway, and pretty much that's about it. We just want to make it more inviting for people to utilize. We may throw a picnic table or two in there. We've been asked in the past about it, and my understanding was they asked, this was probably in the works for the last 4+ years, or 3+ years, and just never got to it, I guess. So I just want to, we'd like to go out and get some bids from contractors to do that piece, and I don't think it's going to be more than a $4,000 to $6,000 job to do everything that we're asking them to do.
Are we gonna engineer it, or are we just gonna
No.
talk about it?
No.
And let them,
We-
this is just simple little project.
That's all we want to do. We're just going to have a contractor come in and tear out a piece, put some concrete in, and move on. So I just want your approval to do that. So,
I'll make a motion to do it.
okay.
I'll second that motion.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion will carry, so we can get started on that ASAP.
Their city hall, they might as well use it.
That's right, that's why I agree with you there. Just so everybody knows, we've spoken with business owners except for one thus far, about cleaning up the parklets and such around their business areas. I have an appointment, not an appointment, but I'm supposed to be talking with Captain's Tavern tomorrow. And what we are telling them is we would expect them, especially on the weekends, to clean up after themselves out in front of their businesses, and that includes sweeping the street in front of their businesses, cleaning up all the butts and things like that.
Make sure they don't dump them in the drains either.
Exactly.
I noticed that, too.
We did mention that. It doesn't get swept into the sewer drain as well on the street level. We're providing these parklets at no cost to them. We think it's an added benefit to them, and all we expect them to do is keep it clean. And we've had great response back. I have not, like I said, I have not gotten to talk directly with Mr. Baxter up there. I'm sure he'll be in agreement with us, or else we can remove the parklet. However they want to deal with it. I mean, that's not what we want to do. We just want them to clean up after themselves. I got a call at 7 o'clock Saturday morning and one at 8:30 Sunday morning about garbage. And people saying, well, can't you call people in for overtime to do that? Baloney. Baloney.
One other thing I would like for you to speak to them about is
Yes.
not to block the sidewalks, because some of them are blocking the sidewalks almost totally.
I also, we mentioned that to Bobo as well, about moving their things out too far. You talking about,
Yeah.
Tony?
Yeah, there has to be at least a 4-foot space, I think, for the wheelchairs.
I agree. We've mentioned that too as well, and we will mention it to him as well.
Well, they also put signs out there, and they're like right in the middle of the walkway.
Well, they need to make sure that people can walk past and
Yep.
and wheel back past and everything. But I just want to let you guys know where we're standing with that, because I know that you guys had heard about it over the weekend and seen it, and I heard about it and seen it myself, so. The other thing is Bright Business Association is having an event October the 14th, and they just asked permission to use our stage that we use for Party in the Street. I don't see an issue with it as long as they transport it and bring it back in the same condition that they took it. I just wanted to see if you guys were okay with that. A head nod will be fine, but I just want to give them the ability to do that, but it'd be on their time. We're not going to deliver it. We're not going to pick it up. It'd be on them, so. Okay, all right, good.
That's fine.
Organization, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry?
What was the organization?
Bright Business Owners. I think it's called BABA, if I'm not mistaken. Bright Association Business Owners or something. Or Business Association of Bright, whatever. I don't know what they're called. Anyway, two other small things. Noise ordinance. We had talked about that the last meeting. Well, it also got mentioned in the newspaper. I've gotten 3 calls from residents downtown here, and just to ask, and they're very, very cordial. All 3 were very cordial. They understand why we want to increase the time on the weekends for music and such, but they were asking if there could be a compromise and make it midnight instead of 1 a.m. Personally, I think that's a great compromise. I already spoke with Bobo about it, because we were down there talking and he came out and heard us. He thinks that's a great compromise as well. The decibel thing is a joke, so everybody knows that, right?
Did you find out about how loud? Did he have a meter?
Well, we did not do that. I don't believe we did meter it, but we found out that 64 decibels is more or less talking noise.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not very loud. So what I would ask is if we're going to approve this ordinance, or the amendment to the ordinance, or the change to the ordinance at the next meeting, but I would like to give Dell the direction just to put midnight in there, if you guys are okay with that. If that's okay with you guys as a compromise as well.
Okay, but what about if there's extremely loud music? I mean,
Well,
do we
that'll
have
be
to
the police always have the ability to come up and shut that down.
Okay.
They have that ability no matter what. So, and that's a good point, Tony, but they have that authority at any time. Yeah. Is midnight okay to put into the ordinance as far as you guys are concerned?
I think midnight's what the racetrack has.
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
It's all fine with me. The senior home, the ones that I've spoke to, they said they don't even hear it.
None of my calls were from them.
Yeah, so, and they're only half a
Honestly.
block away.
Yeah.
So, I don't,
Yeah, but I thought, hey, if they're willing to accept a compromise, I think we could too, so if, that's the way we'll bring it up. We're going to approve this at the next meeting. I just want to make you guys aware. And the last thing is, and I see Steve back there, we all know the situation with the new warehouse possibility, whether it be on the Ellis property, Mr. Linkmeyer's development, or with, the deal we talked with Mr. Maxwell about. Steve has asked if they could just come and make a presentation, just like we let Maxwell do. I think that's more than fair to do that. So I would like to ask if we said, and we'll have to get a date aside to do that. The only thing is, we know there's no part of the litigation can be talked about within that scope of the presentation, so you guys would know that as well. Anyway, I'm just asking your permission to go ahead and set up a meeting to do that.
that's fine with me.
That's fine with me.
This is a presentation on the
Presentation
project.
on the project.
Yes. Okay.
On the project. And did I say that right, Steve? Yeah. Okay. So I'll get that set up. We'll send some dates out to you and get that set up pretty soon if we can, okay? That's all I got. Sorry to belittle that and take up our time there, but we had some good things to talk about. The next item, the reason we're here is we've asked Reedy and Associates to come in and give us just an update on where we are on the budget process and then where we're going with that, and then also to talk about TIF, sort of, a TIF 101 class, so to speak. So if we could talk about the budget process first and the timeline and where we're at and what we're doing, we go from there.
Okay. Jerry Hickman from Reedy Financial Group. I passed out a timeline. I'm not sure if you guys have seen this yet or not, but some of the steps through here, obviously, the city has already accomplished, but just kind of wanted to give an update of what all's happened, what all is planning on happening in the future. But the first deadline on there was June 5th. That's a new thing this year, just a pre-budget worksheet. That's already taken care of on the Gateway website. It's just general information, like any updates to debt, which won't be for you guys, any miscellaneous items concerning the maximum levy, just miscellaneous things like that. The prior to June 30th, that's the department heads filling out their Form 1s and sending it in to the clerk treasurer's office, which that's all been gathered right now. This next June 30th, 2017, that's just pretty much getting information to our office if, as far as helping out with the budget book and financial plan and so on and so forth. We're kind of in the June 30th through August 31st section. So like I mentioned, department heads have all turned in the Form 1s to the clerk treasurer's office. Those have been distributed to the mayor's office. They've kind of looked over them, reviewed them. The next step in the process is the budget book, which that's a form that we put together which kind of shows historical budget, historical spending, the spending through the first half of this year, just kind of gives you guys references as far as, how did this budget compare to previous budget. But I know the mayor's wanting, middle of August kind of to take the Form 2, the miscellaneous revenues and all that information, and incorporate that into the budget book, see fundability, make some more adjustments, seeing, anything here or there, and then get it to the council in plenty of time for you guys also to review and make adjustments as well.
And let me just say a little bit, add to that. I know last year we ran up to the date, and you guys didn't have a lot of time to review and to prepare for that piece. And what the anticipation is we're going to get all that information to you guys so we can start discussing it a lot sooner than last year, because November 1st is the deadline But we're going to, our two meetings in October, and Brittany and Tyler and Suzanne's, the clerk treasurer's group has been working on this stuff as well. And these items that he's talking about, these little bullet points from on the June 30th, they're getting all this stuff together for them at this point. And then all that will be put into that budget book, so it's all culminated in one area, and then that's what we will have distributed to us, or to all of us to start, looking at and talking about, so.
So all that is being gathered right now, and the budget book is in process as far as getting all the Form 1s in June 30th column in that. The August 2017, this is more of a county item, but in their first meeting in August, the DLGF, Department of Local Government Finance, sends out the estimated property tax levy and the circuit breaker projected credits as well for that. They're actually supposed to send out a recommendation or a copy of their meeting minutes to all of the units. So I'd expect to receive that. The Thursday, September 21st, this deadline would be the public hearing, the Form 3, which is the notice to taxpayers, lists out the budget and the tax rate. That has to be submitted 10 days prior to the public hearing, and that only needs to be submitted on Gateway. A couple years ago it changed. You used to actually have to advertise that in the newspaper, but they've made it a little bit easier on units to just submit it on Gateway. But that's the September 21st deadline. Like the mayor mentioned, the first meeting, the public hearing, will be your guys' regular scheduled meeting in October, the first meeting. That'll be a chance to hear comment from any of the public that has anything they want to mention about the budget. The next page, Monday, October 16th, that would be the adoption of the budget. So there's numerous forms that are filled out on the Gateway website. There's the Form 4, which is the actual budget ordinance, which will have, the budgets for all of the funds, the tax rates, and the levies. That'll be the form that would end up adopted on Monday, October 16th. And then within 48 hours, all the forms have to be submitted on the Gateway website. So the next deadline there is 2 days after your adoption. And then some of these remaining items are just kind of miscellaneous items. Wednesday, November 1st, the deadline for the city to adopt the salary ordinance. Thursday, December 14th, the last day for any unit to, if they want to do an additional appropriation as far as submitting that to the state, because it usually takes them, give or take, a couple weeks to have that approved. So just as long as they can get it approved before the end of the year. And then the last one is just the last date to file a shortfall appeal. So really right now, we're still preparing the budget book, going to meet with the mayor, discuss, incorporate all the revenue projections as far as seeing the fundability of all of the budgets, any other adjustments, cuts, additions, the mayor and clerk treasurer may see necessary, and then at that point, like the mayor said, getting it to you guys in plenty of time for you guys also to be able to thoroughly review. I will point out that you guys will be able to cut, but you won't be able to end up adding above and beyond the mayor. But that's kind of where we are in the process. And is there any questions specifically?
So once this is all entered in Gateway, then you guys think you can have that book done within 2 weeks or so?
Well, we could have, well within 2 weeks. We have access to the Form 1.
Mid-August, we could...
Yeah, because it's all in Gateway, and then getting the June 30th, we'll incorporate that, and yeah, we'll be able to have that, definitely within 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then that will also incorporate the revenue projections from the financial plan.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
So we're looking at getting our hands on the books. Looks to me like sometime in late September.
No, we're hoping in August.
You're thinking that you'll be able to pass books out in August?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Because I think last year we didn't get them, I don't think you guys got them until like first week of October. So. Okay. Any other questions regarding that piece right now? Okay. TIF 101. Everything we want to know about TIF and more. Right here. Right, Tony? That's right.
So you guys have in front of you, I'm Gary Smith at Reedy Financial Group. This is a presentation that we gave to the Redevelopment Association of Indiana in conjunction with IACTS on September 30th of 2015, entitled Debunking the Myths. A lot of myths, misconceptions about TIF, and this was just kind of going into some of the impacts, going under the hood of some of the calculations and actually seeing, factually how things work. But before we dive into this, I'll go into some just basic overviews on TIF 101. So I might go through this pretty quickly, but if anyone wants to stop me at any time, feel free to ask questions throughout the process. So the first step would be the establishment of TIF. It's a 4-step process. If a redevelopment commission wants to come in and say, they identified these parcels for redevelopment, they think it's a prime spot for developers to come in, and they want to, capture incremental assessed value and then do subsequent investment of that amount. It'll be a 4-step process. So the first step would be the declaratory resolution. That's when the redevelopment commission would actually declare it. So through that process, you're identifying the maps, you're identifying the parcels, and we're saying generally this is what we're going to do. From there, it goes to the plan commission, making sure that the declaratory resolution is in line with the overall city long-term plan, and then city council for approval, and then finally the confirmatory resolution. Now the confirmatory resolution goes back to the redevelopment commission. This is where impacts are required. So impacts are required to be sent out 10 days prior to that confirmatory resolution. It's really a educational piece for all the overlapping taxing districts. When I say overlapping taxing districts, I mean with any sort of taxing district, we'll have a county rate, for example, or a city rate, or a township rate, or a school rate, or a library rate, airport rate, for example. All those folks may be interested in knowing what their impact is on TIF, and that's the point of doing this impact statement. So a lot of this debunking the myth really dives into what those impacts are and what the truth really is. So that's how you declare an allocation area. That's how it's set up. The parcels will go to the county auditor's office. She'll put it into their system, and each year we'll do TIF reporting. So as part of the TIF reporting in March, they're required to do an annual report. So that annual report will essentially show all their revenues, all their expenditures, all their fund balances. All that's uploaded onto Gateway, and as well as all the parcels. So all that's on the Gateway, easily accessible for anyone else to go in there and see it. The next part would be TIF neutralization, as I mentioned. The way it works is when you declare an allocation area, essentially what you're doing is there's a little chart there on page 4 of this document that I'll start to go over. So for those of you that don't know, basically the base assessed value is frozen in time. So let's say, today you were to do a declaratory resolution for a parcel up by the interstate or whatever. So basically, whatever that parcel's assessment was as of the prior January 1st, that is its base assessment date. That is frozen in time, and that's represented by that blue block that you'll see on page 4 there. So that base belongs to all the other taxing units. So essentially, whatever the AV is, they're going to get the assessed value that they were getting all along. Their rates and their levies won't be impacted, and that's just how it works. From there, if there's any subsequent investment that has to do with things such as new construction, abatement roll-off, things like that, things that are development in nature, that would be what we call incremental assessed value. So we get that through the process of TIF neutralization. It's fairly complicated, but in essence, you're going through and you're calculating what types of assessed values are increasing because of new construction. So whenever I do a neutralization, for example, I'll get your parcel lists, I'll get your AVs for each property, your AVs for that next year, and just compare them. Did AVs go up? Did they go down? Why did they go up? Why did they go down? That's what the neutralization is. So if you have a $500,000 increase, for example, in a new construction project that was in the TIF allocation area, that would be considered incremental assessed value.
But let me stop you just real quick, Gary, because, for instance, if we wanted to TIF Walnut Street right now, whatever the assessed valuation of Walnut Street is right now, that would not hurt any taxing entity that is receiving property taxes from there right now, or their piece of property taxes from there right now. Any improvements would be TIF'd.
Correct. If it falls into the category of
Right.
abatement roll-off, new construction.
Right.
Or change in tax status. So if you had a church, for example, that went to a brewery or whatever, whatever it is, tax exempt, taxable, that would be something that would be considered increment as well.
But in the case of, say you TIF the new sports complex, that area, the only piece of the assessed value right now is on vacant land, okay? So any building, anything else that we put on there would be TIF'd.
Correct.
So that's why schools have this idea that you're screwing them.
Sure.
Okay? To put it in a different way, I guess, but
We'll really get into that.
Yeah.
The actual nuts and bolts of the calculations for the school CPF fund, things like that as well. But yeah, that's exactly how it works, you're right. So that's TIF neutralization, that's how this, yellow triangle even comes about. Whenever you declare an allocation area, it starts a 25-year clock. It's technically 25 years from the date of first debt issuance. So in 25 years, all this AV growth that you would experience in this TIF will go back to the base units. It's not like it's stuck in that TIF forever. Eventually, it will be released to all the overlapping units, 25 years. So that's all I had on TIF neutralization. We talked about reporting. Uses of TIF. For example, you could have a developer that may want to come in and invest in a development. You could leverage those incremental dollars that they're going to be paying, whatever their assessment increase is, essentially. You could leverage that in a bond payment. If you wanted to do utility out there, or pay for part of the development, or things like that. Generally, and obviously you would talk to legal about this, but generally a legal opinion, they'll tell you anything that benefits the allocation area. Those are things that can be used on TIF usually. So that's all I had on TIF 101. Does anyone have any questions so far before I get into the details of the impacts?
You've got a TIF district, right?
Yes.
So you can obviously add to it as you need to.
Sure. So you can expand the current allocation area. You could take parcels away from the allocation area. You could create an entirely new allocation area.
And you also mentioned that we're supposed to be filing this on Gateway every year.
Correct.
We've had our TIF district now for a good, and we've always filed it.
Yeah.
Have we ever had any income off of TIF?
we just started last year with
Did
the
we?
event center, yes.
Okay.
Probably getting about 98,000 a half. So
200,000.
200,000 a year.
Just starting to get our account going.
Yep.
They had an abatement before that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that goes into the redevelopment budget.
No, it don't.
What did you say? It went to,
What did you say?
He said,
I think
it
it-
goes back right into redevelopment budget.
what should?
It does go in redevelopment budget, doesn't it? Is that where it's supposed to go?
Well, technically they don't have a budget, but it goes into its own fund.
Right.
Each allocation area has to have its own pot of money, if you will. So each allocation area, whatever they generate, goes into that pot of money.
It goes into a TIF fund.
Yep.
That's, yeah. So you know where you're using those funds for.
Yep.
So if we did the athletic center, that would be a separate TIF fund, as I understand it.
Could be.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be, no, we wouldn't have,
combined.
it'd be all in the same TIF fund.
You could set it up however you want. So there's a couple different ways. There's what you would call a developer assigned deal, which essentially no money would change hands. It's a way to incentivize a developer. So in that type of bond structure, you would want that project in its own allocation area, because you wouldn't want, funds being commingled with other allocation areas, other dollars, so it would be
Right.
cleaner to set it up separately. But if there's nothing like that going on, you could make it in one. That expansion would have its own base assessment date in that it would have its own 25-year clock, even if it's in the same allocation area that would be separate, the expansion and the
Does it have to be 25 years?
statute says 25 years from the day of debt issuance. They've
So we
changed.
can't make that less? If we say we only want TIF 15 years, we can do that.
You could do, we're working on a project like this down south, the possibility of doing a 15-year TIF and then just passing through 100% of the AVs, the overlapping units for the remaining 10. You could do that.
Are there only certain things you can spend TIF money on?
Anything that, I defer to legal, but anything that benefits the allocation area. That's a very generic.
Like down here on High Street is our TIF area right now. Anything we did down here on High Street, on levee side, we could use TIF money for.
I've seen it used for.
Was there any way to connect the fairgrounds property to that property? Because do we necessarily want to be confined? Let's say we make that a TIF area where, and any money we make on that, does that mean that we have to spend that money on that area?
Well, so there's two things. There's an allocation area, which is where you actually generate your TIF dollars. So let's say it's 10 parcels, that's your allocation area. Then you have an economic development area, which could be bigger than that. So you could generate it in those 10 parcels and spend it in a larger area. Generally speaking, the allocation area and the EDA are the same, one and the same. But to your point, if you wanted to do that, you have to connect it somehow. And again, I'll defer to legal, but what they'll tell you is you can connect TIF district, like you could expand that TIF district out to the fairground or whatever, through railroads or easements perhaps, or city streets, for example.
What about the air?
They have to be technically connected somehow. That's what I've seen.
Does it have to be one street, or could two streets that connected?
That's a great question.
Technically connected through Lawrenceburg proper, like city boundary?
Well, that's why I said perhaps.
What
I would
about-
defer to legal on that, but I've seen railroads and I've seen roads. I've not seen city-owned property before.
What about a levy?
The cleanest way you could do that, though, is keep this as a separate allocation area and then make a new one over at the fairgrounds.
The only caveat to
Yeah,
that
but then we
is,
can only spend the money
Yep.
in the fairgrounds.
Not necessarily. Stoplights, utilities, connecting roads that benefit that area.
But if we could connect it together, it would be a better benefit to us, wouldn't it?
if you connected them, you could use the funds in both areas,
What about a
to your
levy?
point.
Levy connects,
A levy,
the levy would connect those two areas.
I would have to defer to legal on that. So we would prepare all the financial things, but what I've seen is roads, and I've seen roads and I've seen railroads.
You can walk on our levy.
My personal opinion is, I mean, and it's up to you, however we want to set it up, or redevelopment wants to set it up, but if we, over at the fairgrounds, for instance, it's not going to be a place where we have additional, that we're aware of, additional growth. So I would recommend not tiffing that, my opinion. That, because it's only one, you don't have any growth over there. So you can't, it's going to be harder to spend that money, it's just going to sit in this TIF fund for that allocation area.
Or you use that as an incentive and put a specific number of years on it.
What do you mean?
Well,
We use that to pay for our incentive, use the TIF money to pay the incentive and have it expire after our commitment has been met.
Oh, but, yeah, but for instance, on this one, it's a very, it would be expired in 5 years.
Well, what I was thinking, I mean, I thought there might be some more development in the back, because there's always been talk about Greendale doing development over there and actually bringing a road from the back and cutting through the levee, coming up to 6th Street.
That would work.
But I don't think it was in fairground property, was it? I think Greendale's,
Well, it was running over our fairground property, because we were going to cut through the levee up to 6th Street.
Oh,
There's project out there, I just went over that with Mike Clark on capital projects, and it's out there like for 2020, just to start looking at it again, but yeah, there's a project out there to connect there, I mean, and go through the levee, but.
Another interesting point on reporting, which I failed to mention, and you guys probably do this already, you've probably seen the July 15th pass-through of AV. So the Redevelopment Commission each year we'll have to make a determination on the pass-through of that TIF AV. And essentially, if they're going to have sufficient plans to spend 50% or more of their TIF revenue, the redevelopment commission can say, well, we're going to keep all of our TIF AV, we're not going to pass any of it through, send out send out notification to overlapping units. But if they are going to spend less than that 200%, then the city council would have the opportunity to come back and override that decision. So they could force the RDC to pass it through in that scenario.
Can you use
Not common, but
TIF money for improvements and maintenance to the fairgrounds?
Upgrades.
Racetrack in particular?
If we consider that the allocation area, the boundaries over there.
if legal
When we
says it
set up
benefits the
that TIF
allocation area.
area, Paul?
Yeah.
And it
If
could
we
be-
included all that, when we set up that original, when we set up the TIF area over there, yeah, I mean, that could be included in there.
Motorcycle track, the racetrack, fairground.
There's always maintenance that we're gonna have to do on a big facility like that.
I'm just saying, when you're talking about a project like that, it's gonna probably have $150,000 to $175,000 a year in property tax revenue. It's gonna be hard to spend that much money a year in that area.
I don't know, that would put the restrooms inside the
Yeah.
speedway.
Well, we're gonna put new restrooms in every year probably now. Huh?
Gold.
Yeah, I just think it would be hard to spend that much money every year.
Well, I know.
And you're gonna have this money.
We got to think of all kinds of stuff. And I guess I'm trying to, we got a lot to do. And 150 grand don't go very far nowadays. I think we're all finding that out.
Not when we found out how much them restrooms cost.
But I got no problem also with this not getting TIF'd and the schools getting, benefiting from it. Either way over there, I got no problem with it.
Well, we'll get to that as well. It's one of the misconceptions. So the first tab was kind of TIF 101.
They do, they benefit. You'll get to that, but you're right, Paul. I mean, and that was my concern as well at one time. I'll tell you what, though, you look at, I don't know. I just think that, we're in a position right now that we need to learn how to wean ourselves off of gaming. And the only way you do that is through property tax, developing property tax projects. Projects, we should be investing in those projects that bring property tax to us in a long-term benefit. That's the only way we're going to wean ourselves off gaming. And I'm not saying that TIF districts are bad at all. I think they have a very beneficial place in things. I mean, Messmore and I disagree on a lot of this stuff.
We disagree on a lot of things, don't we?
I usually. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So we can continue on to the impact side. So as I said, anytime you want to expand an allocation area or take away from an allocation area or start a new allocation area, it's required to do TIF impacts. So when analyzing TIF impacts, there's a few different things we have to look at. CPF impact.
Are you on page 6?
Yes. Okay, so yeah, we can start there. But I wanted to preface it by saying, when we look at impacts, there's three types of funds, three different ways that a governmental unit can raise revenue. There's maximum levy funds. Other than the CPF fund for a school, all of them are maximum levy funds, with not including debt. So they're controlled, even with city, maximum levy funds, no matter what AVs do, you will always be able to get your maximum levy if you go through the process correctly. The other type will be debt funds. Debt funds, as long as you go through the process, the DLGF will allow you to levy your debt, no problem. So those two types of funds specifically are not impacted by any sort of TIF AV. The TIF could have $1 million or $10 million in it. Those funds would never be impacted by that AV being passed through the overlapping units, just because they're subject to maximum levy and they're subject to debt. AVs really don't matter. It's just going to change the rates. The levy is pretty much set. The third way is rate-driven funds, specifically on page 6, capital projects fund. So for a school, Capital Projects Fund would be the rate-driven fund. For a city, it would be a CCD, for example. And this is a TIF impact that I have seen before. Example impact scenario. Let's just say the school corporation had $660 million in AV before and after the TIF project. Now let's say they have assessed value due to TIF. They pass through $10 million. Well, according to this calculation, this rate times, it says times 2015 school corporation CPF rate, 0.3377. Before and after TIF, that both says 0.3377. That's assuming that with this AV being included in this calculation, that the rates will remain constant. If we assume that, the impact that the CPF fund would have lost due to the TIF is $33,769. I've seen this impact before. I've seen it go up before.
Is that over 25 years?
That's over 1 year.
Over 1 year?
So I've seen this before, and the flaw in this methodology, the next page kind of sets you up. Have you seen this calculation used in TIF impact statement? Wrong, basically. Then we go into, on page 9, the different types, what I prefaced it with, max levy debt funds, rate-driven funds. Page 10, this is how a rate-driven fund generally works. In year 1, you have $1 million of AV, let's say, and you're a city that has a CCD rate. So you have 0.0333, that's your max CCD rate. Property tax revenue of $333. The rate's established at that, and that's what it is. So let's say in the next year the rate goes, the AV goes up to 1.25 million in year 2. Well, as you see, the CCD rate is reduced to levy the same $333, and so on and so forth, up until the point that rate is reestablished in year 5. So this exercise showing you that even with AVs going up, rate-driven funds are not going to levy more. Generally speaking, they will levy the same and the rates will be impacted. That's generally speaking how it works. It's a fairly long formula, and I'll get to that on page 12. So on page 12, this is your 1782 notice. The 1782 notice calculation, this is how rate-driven funds are calculated. So you'll see, your 3377 down there in yellow at the bottom. If we release that $10 million to the AV on the right side, you'll see your AV go up. You'll see your rate be adjusted to the 0.335, not 0.3377, for an impact on taxing unit of $5,755. Is there an impact on page 13? Yes, there is. Is it $33,000? No, it's not. So one of the common misconceptions are, is it a dollar for dollar impact on the school? Absolutely not, because the schools, the counties, the cities, they're controlled by rate-driven funds, maximum levy funds, debt funds. And the rate-driven funds are the only ones that's going to be impacted by TIF. So that's an illustration there. 83% less than a traditional TIF impact calculation. Now, to consider this from all sides, we also have to look at circuit breaker. Certain communities have a high circuit breaker. If you have a high circuit breaker and your tax rates go down, obviously there's going to be circuit breaker impact. So we have to consider that as well. The state provides us with certified circuit breaker reallocation now, so we can get on there and see what the allocations actually are. And basically in these scenarios, we just say, okay, if you release the $10 million, what would rates do? Well, generally speaking, if you had $10 million in the TIF that you released, rates would go down a little bit. If they went down a little bit, circuit breaker loss would go down a little bit. So we have to quantify that as well, and we do in this scenario. So that's circuit breaker, TIF pass-through we discussed, and then questions. So TIF misconception, basically, I guess the point of that was it's not a dollar for dollar impact. If you see $100,000 in a redevelopment commission, if you were to release all that AV to the overlapping units, it would not be $100,000 that all the other overlapping units would receive. Likely would be impact, like we said, due to rate-driven funds, due to circuit breaker, but it wouldn't be a dollar for dollar match. So. That is all I had.
We do have a high circuit breaker here, don't we?
Do you guys have a high circuit breaker?
Yeah, we butt up against it every year.
Sure. Yeah, so in a high circuit breaker environment with some sort of TIF release, you would see some sort of impact.
Yeah. And there's a way that if you didn't want to affect the school, okay, or the library, whoever, and you could do a pass-through on the money that they're affected by, correct?
You do pass through, yeah. But if it's, $15,000 in the TIF, when you pass it through, it's not going to be 15,000 to them.
No.
It'll be, I don't know what it is, but it'll
Well,
be
like,
a
it
fraction of
wasn't
that.
33,000, it was 5,000.
Exactly.
5,700.
Exactly. Yep.
What the true impact would be.
Correct. Yep.
And all that can be figured out.
And, you know, there's other ways, you know, to pass through things as well, and I've heard some different ideas kicked around, so.
I think the main piece is, as we're doing these projects, I think, you know, we have decisions to make as far as, okay, do we want to expand our TIF? You know, I guess a lot of it depends on what we're planning on doing in the future, right? We're a very blessed community. We're not always searching for that last $10 to do a project. We've been very fortunate. A lot of communities certainly do not have that luxury, and they TIF, and like Greendale. Greendale's redevelopment, I believe, has more money than the city of Greendale has because of their TIF district down on US 50. That's where their bread's buttered, right? That's where they got their, you know, that's where their stuff is all going into down there. So I think it's just what we need to do as a group and as redevelopment is decide, okay, do we want to expand the TIF area, or are we okay with what we got now and letting it see what happens? But obviously, I mean, I don't know everything about TIF, that's for sure. I think there's good and bad points to it, depending on which way you look at it, right?
Do the circuit breakers affect the TIF payouts? Do they limit the revenue from TIF in the same way they would do for individual owner?
In a roundabout way, yes. They're not, TIF levy is not a certified levy, so it's just your AV divided by whatever that tax rate is for your overlapping units. You know, your AV divided by 100 times that tax rate, that's what they get. And you're right, it is capped at 3%.
Okay.
Less any other deductions they may have. So yes, but we don't get a certification from the DLGF like we would with a city or things like that.
But the county would still cap it.
The auditor's abstract will have estimates for what the actual collections will be, net of TIF. Yep.
Well, how far off am I in thinking like this? I mean, if we decide to make something in a TIF district, then that's, my thought process on this is kind of like, okay, that means that we should have something in mind for that money because we're going to do something better with the people that are going to get the taxes are going to get. So when we are in this thought process of TIF, do we do it just because we want to rat hole the money and not really have a plan? Because aren't we, I think, Kelly, you know what I'm trying to say, but there's 5 or 6 other people that I know the piece of this pie it goes to, they might have plans to where they might have an idea to where they can use this tax money instead of TIF money at that point.
Well, and I think what Brian was alluding to earlier, say we have a project that comes to town and it's a large project and they want $4 million from us, our piece of it. Let's just put that number out there, $4 million. If we don't want to hand over cash, I certainly don't want to do it in a tax abatement. I'm against, I hope you guys feel the same way I do. I'm against tax abatements, okay? Maybe you guys aren't. But the thing is, one way we could do that $4 million is, okay, if it's going to generate $300,000 property tax a year, okay, we go ahead and TIF this project for 12 years or 13 years, and that money is given back in the form of, you know, we get our money back. We contribute our money in that manner. Does that make sense? okay? And after that TIF, after we determine that TIF is over, it's over. Then all that property tax would go back into the normal property tax realm of things. But, and I think if we're upfront with the different entities around here and tell them that, you know, why we're doing something, or if we're gonna do something like that, in order to say, hey, we just don't wanna cut a check for $4 million, but we see the long-term benefit of this company coming to town, you know? It may be 100 jobs, it may be, whatever the case may be. I think then, if we have a good reason to do a TIF, then we do it. But I think the big piece is educating the people that are affected by it. Because I don't want them to think we're after a money grab, that's for sure. Because like I said, we're a very fortunate community and we don't have to be after a money grab. But I think we need to be smart on what we're doing. You know, and such as this sports complex, they're asking for very little in realms, in relationship to what we've normally been asked for, right? So I don't know that, you know, I don't know if TIF is logical over there or not. I mean, I think it's something that can be discussed and.
That's a great point, and that's exactly how it works. We've seen situations, you know, like you said, you don't want to give them much money up front, or you don't want to do an abatement or something like that. You could take their tax dollars over a period of time, and the RDC could retain 10% of it, or 25% of it, or half of it.
Good point.
And then, I mean, you can set it up pretty much not however you want, but there's a lot of flexibility in how you can set up incentives for them. And having a redevelopment commission in place already kind of puts you ahead of the curve a little bit whenever something like this comes to town. You have this entity that you can offer these incentives through.
That's the mechanism we would use. And
sure.
Yeah.
And there are also ways, I believe there's a statute that allows pass-through to schools, for example, to where you're actually not passing through AV,
right.
But you can pass through actual dollars. So there's a few different ways that you can make it work if the city had an appetite for it. So.
I think the big piece of that is educating these other entities that are affected.
Absolutely.
And explaining why we might be doing something or why we aren't. But I think it's a good option to have. I mean, I think it's a great option to have. Any other questions? I appreciate you guys coming and educating us and helping us out, and we'll see more of you, I'm sure. And,
yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
And this might come in a different meeting, and if it is, tell me, but I think we're having this meeting so that, and I think it's to help us out on this decision with the sports complex. We got some decisions to make. Have these guys studied our bonding question that we had? Is that something tonight that we could talk about, or was
We
that
certainly
coming at a later
can.
date?
We can. They've gotten some opinions from a bond attorney, which through Barnes and Thornburg, I believe. And I'll let you guys share that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So 2 specific questions was asked of bond counsel on how something like this would be feasible. One would be through LCD, one would be through city. Difficult through the LCD, you know, to basically have a higher return on investment than a typical money market or CD account, for example. Their specific opinion pertained to what does the actual Conservancy District plan say in it, what kind of projects can be funded. It was pretty vague, and it was just a phone conversation with them on it. Some sort of a water recreation aspect was mentioned through the project. That would have to be required for it to be LCD. Sounds like it would be extremely difficult to do it through LCD, so I'm not sure that would be the best option or something that I would be comfortable with recommending. The other part of it would be the city side. Can the city do something like that? And again, I got very similar feedback on, as you guys alluded to, there's not a lot of cities in that position, so it's not something you see every day. Again, difficult to pull off. Specifically, a way that Barnes pointed to was some sort of revolving fund loan. So,
Heard that
Loans. We don't like that four-letter word.
I guess my question is I always thought that the LCD does have a mission, and it does state what you just said about, water recreation and things, but that is when we're gonna spend our money. Okay, now, is it the same when we're going to invest it? Because I look at spending money on a mission and investing money to get a higher yield, and I think our directors have a certain duty to us to invest our money where we can get a better yield. Is there a difference between spending and investing in that mission?
There's state investing laws that dictate what can be invested, and based on our preliminary conversation with Barnes, it's difficult to sell loaning, or however you want to phrase it, to a developer like that. For me, it raises some flags from a financial advising perspective of liability and risk, things like that. But
I think we're pretty fortunate in this situation. It's not. We brought those up as options of somebody, the LCD especially, maybe getting a higher return on their money, which indeed helps us with the formula that we got figured out with them, is what we give to them every year. But in this case, obviously, this group, that $7.5 million they're talking about, they have financing for it. So that's a good thing. It's not, the project isn't dependent on a bond structure or something like that. So obviously, but in the future, we may have to look at something like that, but we don't want to do loans.
No.
So.
I've got a question for you on the TIF financing. How does arbitrage work into that?
So are you talking in regards to tax exempt securities and tax exempt bonds and yielding a higher investment in?
Exactly.
I think it depends. And there's a lot of specific rules in arbitrage. We don't deal with that a lot, like arbitrage problems. So a lot of times bond proceeds will be invested in like slugs, state and local government series, for example. And basically if you have these money sitting around for a certain amount of time and they're accruing more interest than your tax exempt status allows you to, then you'd be required to remit that additional earnings back to the IRS.
So there is an issue of legal arbitrage, the amount that's acceptable on that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
With any tax exempt bond,
okay,
you could run into that. Typically, your indenture is going to lay out, whenever you do the bond issuance, the indenture is going to lay out what types of things you can invest those funds in.
So anything that yielded above that acceptable amount would have to be, you couldn't take that, correct?
Correct, yeah. It would have to be paid back to the IRS.
Okay.
Yep. And, tax exempt securities have such a low interest rate anyway. That's why the government implemented slugs, state and local government series, for example, because it's a very safe, very liquid.
So it would be considered HULAs? It would be considered high liquidity?
Well, you can set them up. The nice part about slugs is you can purchase the slugs to mature on a specific day, on a specific block of 6 months, on a specific block of 1 year, for I think up to 30 years maybe even. So you can have them mature in a day, you can have them mature whenever you go to purchase them, you say when you want them to mature. So they're liquid in that regard. When you first set them up, you can set them up kind of how you want.
But they may not be considered high liquidity.
Well, I guess not, because it's not like a money market account or anything like that.
Okay.
But when you set it up, if you set them up to be matured on 6/30 of 2018, they're going to mature on 6/30 of 18. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Anything else, guys? We will accept comments from the audience. Yes, sir.
There are some things that he said that I don't understand, and maybe you can help me understand it. one of the things with regard to the LCD, the LCD has purchased, they're not necessarily bonds, but they're something, and they're paid interest by the gas company. And so what is the difference with that and the LCD purchasing bonds? I know that,
We don't know. We asked that question. I don't think they had it. They knew, right, Paul? Remember we were talking about that?
I think that's something that the group is, I think that's what you said, it would have to be looked into, the difference between what.
Good point, Tom.
Utility
we asked
company
the same
versus
question.
a gymnasium. Is that a risk factor probably?
They bonded, they sold some bond or something, or invested in Sycamore Gas is who it was.
and I believe that Doc Richter went to the state and got the state to change the percentage of their savings, and so that they just weren't in CDs, but they could make more interest on that, and there's a number of which 50% or 40% or something like that.
Well, we can only invest a certain percentage of our cash in investments as well.
Right, so that's my next question is, the bond bank, which you, the mayor, appoint the people on the bond bank, is that then a conflict because the bond bank is like any other committee? And so would you not be able to buy the bonds issued by, and when I say you, I mean the city?
Probably not. And in fact, our bond bank is sort of inactive right now.
Well, I know it's inactive, but it has $2 million approximately in it.
2.9.
And this number that Brian said that it's getting other income. And when they invested in the doctor's building on High Street, or they furnished the bonds for that. They furnished bonds, I think, for other communities that they're still getting income from.
Yep.
In fact, the hospital has reissued some bonds and is paying a lower rate, and they've reissued the bonds so that they can get a higher rate than what they're paying.
Paying back. Yeah.
So it appears to me that it's a method by which, whether it's the bond bank or the city, which you have control of the bond bank, to make income, okay? And if that income can be used for, my understanding is it can be used for redevelopment agencies.
My particular interest going forward would not be to use that to invest like in a project like that. I mean, listen, we're still getting paybacks from municipalities that we.
So you could use it to lend to municipalities.
Good, because it's a lower risk of not getting your money back, because I think that's we're gun shy, right? I mean, it's
and rightly so,
and we should be. So I think that's where we stand with that. But
I mean, whatever money we decide to contribute to this project and however we decide to do it is money that the only thing we're looking for in return would be taxes, employment, benefits, community.
yes,
we shouldn't, unless we go in this thing whole hog if something pops up in 5 years and they're on their way out the door, the banks are gonna have first mortgage on this, right?
Yeah, we don't have any.
We don't have anything.
No.
So going into this thing, we either need to back off and count on our taxes and do for as least as we can to get them in there, or to get teeth in it to where we got first.
Well, I don't think, but we're not financing a piece of this, so we wouldn't have a reason to be on the mortgage. Besides, if the bank takes it back, so they're gonna finance this $7.5 billion. If they fold in 5 years, well, no, in 5 years, we've already gotten our investment back, so to speak, if everything goes right. But say they fold in 2 years, the bank is gonna own it. They still have to pay their taxes. We're not ever gonna be short those taxes. That's the way I look at that. Thanks, Tom. Anyone else? I got one other thing I just want to bring up before we adjourn here. We're going to have to set up an executive session to get some, we got some feedback on the Davis litigation. So we'll be setting that up here soon, and then maybe the same night we can do the work session on the Linkmeyer proposal. Okay?
Your Honor,
We'll be calling you, yes?
depending on what the date is for the executive session, I've got some updates to provide that really need to come through executive session on a potential settlement issue.
Oh, okay, I got you. I know what you're talking about. All right, we can do that same night. Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Hey, thanks for coming out, guys. Appreciate you making the trip.
As well, like not something related, right?
Yeah, it's something in addition to.
Oh, man. Tony, have a good one, man. Now we're back to Dillsboro.
So, a question for you.
Done, huh? Oh, you did get one in out there? Yep. Good.
But you gotta trade it too.
Making that money.
Get online and look at, see what engage in legal arbitrage. It's on Saturday, they have everything up over there.
That size
So
of.
if
the return, so say I could,
walk up,
the advantage is I could
you know where they're
buy
at?
them, get a discounted rate.
Okay. Right.
All of them put window. First day we was up when they had the boat race.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was a pretty good one.
Yeah. One on down, where all the campers were, and he found.
Of the meeting.
It wasn't high pressure though, right?
For Greendale? Yeah. We did. Oh, you did? Yeah. Yeah, let me see.
There's no rush, whenever she can get around to it.
She did it, she copied her notes and,
Can I come pick it up?
yeah, let me see where that is.
Just send me a text or a call.
She might have scanned it to me.
I need to stop in there and see if he called me.
Del, thanks, I'll be back here for a couple minutes.
Yeah, I'm gonna look right now.
In regards to investments.
Randy.
Yeah, he gave me a call. I just even talking to Lawrence.
Okay, good.
No, I had it, other than on the phone.
Well, after you get involved in private over, just kind of long time. I saying you can't do it, but it's kind of looks a certain way. Sorry, I can't.
No, that's
Sorry,
fine.
answer your question.
That's fine. Thanks. It's informative.